Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, practicing necromancer, and today I'd like to kind of talk to you about applying what you're learning to your life. What does it mean to distribute the knowledge that you're acquiring through your practices into the physical, mundane life? See, a lot of people, they don't consider this application. They don't really go into the magic for worldly aspects, applications. And it's interesting to see this because they get into it because it's something that today is considered a fad, to look cool, to be a part of something, be it left hand path or right hand path practices. But what what do you do with it after that fact? How do you take it from your ritual room to other areas of your life? In the book Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, he was a politician, a rich man that was actually a very wise man, a philosopher. His way of viewing things was don't belong to one or the other, but be neutral between them. Be your own man, be your own woman. Okay. Now, you notice how I said be your own man, your own woman. Now, what does that mean? It means you don't have to be, in modern terms, a Republican or a Democrat. You just have to have the knowledge of what these two parties bring to the table. It would be like sitting between a pagan and a Satanist, but or a practitioner of the arts and that of a mundane individual in the workforce. Same exact thing. You have the knowledge of where both parties are coming from. You're the one in the middle. As a practitioner of any given system, you are considered to be the ambassador. You are considered to be the intermediary between the gods and this world. Okay, you are the keeper of the secrets, the wisdom, the knowledge. But even from that European standpoint, how do you use these applications for your benefit? Well, that's what we're here for, to teach you. A while ago, I came across a video by Leonard Boko Leonard Imera, and he was showing some philosophical books of what he classified as being some of his favorite books when he first started out. I had forgotten that I had some of these, so I thought I would share them. 48 Laws of Power, 33 Strategies of Warfare, The Art of Seduction, and let me see here, I know I have it here somewhere. Uh, Actually, I think that's over here. Yes. See, I have all kinds of these bags, these these beds you can get at grocery stores like Walmart, um, Hannaford, wherever. And I've got them full of books. I got one for Haitian Voodoo and African Caribbean traditions, such as Santeria, Pedro Mayumbi. I got another one full of books on Necromayicon, another one set specifically for necromancy, and another one for philosophy. So this one here is called The 50th Law. And these were all by Robert Greene, these books here. And I really like Robert Greene's books because he gets you thinking in a physical format. About a month ago, my elder, he put forth a challenge about a month or two ago. Said if I was up to it, I could do it. So basically, he said get two grimoires together, two journals, and split them apart into things like financial, work, family, love, magic, and kind of break them up into sections, each one accordingly, and what they mean to you. Okay. And at the time, I thought this was kind of cool because it's like, yeah, this is something I can get done pretty quick. But as I was sitting there doing it, and I was literally starting to do it, I got to the application of love. And I realized this is an area I really have no knowledge in. You know, I don't have that knowledge because of my life. You know, I've been a warrior my whole life from birth. I came out swinging because in my family, you are either strong or you're lunch. Okay. My mother literally abandoned me as a kid, as an infant, chose prison and all that fun stuff, lying, manipulation, over raising her kids. And then it was like later on in life, hey, why does my kids hate me? You know, why do I have no friends? Why do people not, why can't I get a good job? Stuff like that. Well, guess what? It's the choices that you make, you know? The fact that you are rejected across the board. You have to fight for everything you've got. That kind of builds up a persona of a warrior. And then when you get into the mystic arts and you find you have a knack for black magic, for vile magics, then that brings in the application of okay, you know, anger, rage, destruction, passion. But wait for it. Do you enjoy that? Does it bring you happiness? Is that not another form of love? You love practicing magic. You love performing sorcery. You see what I mean? It kind of gives that little spin upon the application of a single topic. So you can look at your life from a different perspective here because as you break everything down, you're looking at it as a percentage of the overall. And it helps you focus on what is known as balance, balancing out the equations. Okay. Now, one of the things that I like about Robert Greene is, and I'm gonna kind of share a couple of these quotes with you, and I think they're important. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. This is something that is very, very good, and I'll tell you why. Friends throughout history, okay, throughout your history, how many of your friends turned out to be villains? How many of them that you thought was friends or brethren would turn around and betray you? Okay, in person, even they'll back you up face to face, act tough, and then they'll talk shit about you behind your back. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Friends and coworkers, your coworkers that you consider friends, your family, all of this stuff, they can hurt you in ways that others can't. You know what I'm saying? Because family knows all your deepest, darkest secrets, right? So they can hurt you. Friends can betray you for money, power. How many times in religious philosophies have we seen this? I mean, look at Judas to Jesus for an example. Okay, that's just in the four gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, okay? How he literally was predicted to betray him. A man that they called their Lord, their master, okay? Knowing that he was going to betray him, and yet he kept him in his inner circle, okay? Think of it as the serpent in the garden, if you will. So he betrayed the son for coin, okay? This shows you that in philosophy, not just in history, that there's a price for everything, okay? Friends will betray you for money, for power, for personal gain, but yet an enemy, somebody who is your enemy can be used as a weapon, just like any magical spell, okay? Why is that? Why is the enemy of my enemy my friend? Okay? Well, think about it this way. Your enemy has something to prove. Therefore, to get back in your good graces, they're willing to do whatever is necessary to earn your trust, to get back what they lost because they know that they made that mistake. They regret that mistake. Okay, so therefore they have something to prove. A friend or a family member does not have anything to prove. Therefore, they can become corrupted. They can fall into a state of greed. And this could be you being the head of the table, so to speak. The head of the family, and they can just try to assassinate you. They'll conspire with other families, other magicians, and stuff like that. So that saying is very important. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. That is something that is very, very good. Very good. You know? And if you go into the 33 laws of, or the 33 strategies of war, you know, one of the things that is in there is amidst the turmoil of events, do not lose the presence of mind, your presence of mind. Now, think about that for just a minute. Look at the world that we live in, okay? We don't just have this, the First Amendment, that's under attack. We don't have just the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment being under attack, the rights movements of women and stuff like that being under attack. You know, um, we don't just have businesses cutting back on what their employees can and cannot do. There's a lot, and laws are changing. The legal statutes are changing. There's no doubt about that, and it's becoming more and more Hebraic. It's becoming more Christianized, and you can see this coming. So, with all this drama and all this chaos, these witch wars, does anybody stop to think, why did these wars start? What caused the mass shootings to begin with? What We could sit there in our offices and go, okay, we need stricter gun laws. We need cops to be at our schools. We need metal detectors at our schools. What are we, the Third Reich, the Fourth Reich? You know what I'm saying? Now they got Christians sitting there telling schools what they can and cannot have in their libraries, trying to limit that knowledge. Okay. So, how can you apply this? Everybody's getting wrapped up in various different types of drama, various different types of turmoils. Okay. It doesn't matter if a kid pulls a gun on a cop. It doesn't matter if a cop commits murder knowingly. Okay. It doesn't matter if a president supposedly tried to pay somebody off for either keeping quiet or just giving them money to go away. You're annoying me. Get the fuck out of my face. You know what I'm saying? That that's basically what it is. But instead they make this big ass fucking deal about shit. And then next thing you know, you got everybody getting in there. There's an old expression that says opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, you know? So if you don't have balance in your life, then you will get lost in the turmoil and the dramas that are out there on social media, not just in the world, in your home, in your family life, in your inner circles of friends, in your workplace. Not just in your covens. I mean, I've watched covens explode before. I mean, I'm talking imploding wise. To where none of the members could even sit in the same freaking room and discuss things because somebody always has a hair across their ass, to the point where they don't want to listen to reason. They don't want to hear the other person's side, you know? So they just go off on a tear. Excuse me. So I think, personally, I think Marcus Aurelius said it really, really the best way possible. Stay neutral. Have knowledge of both sides, of all parties. Know what's going on and be informed. That's basically what he was saying, is be informed. Okay. But when it comes to your practices, your independent practices, you are the one that's responsible for your own growth, for your own knowledge, for your own self evolution. Okay. And this is a proven fact, because nobody else is going to learn for you. Somebody can show you the door, but it has to be you who chooses to walk through. So this morning and yesterday, I was going through these books. I was reading them, and certain things kind of came to light because I've been applying them to my life over the last 3 months, 3.5 months. I can't believe it's already the 12th of the fourth month. Wow. Wow. The fourth month. Whew. Damn. This year is going fast. So, one of the things that's been going on in my life is number one, I started walking the path of a samurai, you know, the art of war, Bushido, getting into Aikido even, and Shintoism, Stoicism, and getting into not just the spiritual applications and being more and more into the spiritualism of these aspects. But I've been getting into philosophy. I've been really getting into philosophy, and not just the spiritual applications of rituals and rites, working with the entities that I work with. Basically, what I did was I sat down and there was one being, my patroness, my beloved patroness. And I looked at my path of where I'm at after 6 years of walking as a necromancer. 6 years. I can't believe it's been 6 years already. I looked at my path and I looked at what am I trying to do? Where am I going with this? And I realized after the breakup with my son's mother that it was more of a learning tool. The reason it wasn't working out was number one, it was a religious difference, between us. She was more wrapped up in trying to find approval from her mother and just doing her own thing than to actually, working within unison to raise a family of her own. That was her choice. But here it is. After the separation, I allowed myself to go into this dark, dark area of myself, just like I always do. And when anything massive changes, because it allows me to go into reflection mode. I can break things down and look at all applications, my career, my spiritual journey, my magical practices, who I am, where what caused this, where do I go from here? And it allows you to get that perspective of, okay, sometimes it's best to go back to the beginning. Other times it's like, okay, let's do a purification, a deification process, or, you know, abjuration and cancel out all that energy, that bad mojo, and then just let's continue on. Well, in my case, it was more of the fact that I was beginning to go into stagnation, and that was not good. So I was neglecting certain applications, and the gods were sitting there going, "Hey, wake up call." And it's like, okay, I hear you. Okay. So January 1st, I decided to go underneath a 2 year spiritual journey. That's 2 years, 3 months of a spiritual journey. And which is why I got off social media for those 3 months. And it was interesting because for me, I was getting back into the unison. I was getting back into harmony, balance. I set up a whole new altar. Okay. A whole new altar. I started doing the rites, the whispers, the mantra. I started doing specifically along the path that I'm on. And I realized real quick that my ascension, my descension into that world required me to put together a routine. Okay. A routine. So by the time I began, I started working out. I started working my body, my muscles. Okay. Hitting the gym. Okay. Started out once a week for the first month, twice a week even, just to tone my shoulders and work my shoulders and my back because of the injuries that I've had. Same thing with my knees. Considering January 1st, I couldn't even sit in a lotus position. I couldn't even sit in a half lotus position. I could sit in an Indian position, but not the half lotus. Well, guess what? I started stretching, I started toning, strength training. By the time February came, I was now working towards the half lotus. Now I can sit there in the fourth month of this year. I can sit in the full lotus position with no pain, no discomfort whatsoever with my knees. Okay. So working the physical body is very, very good. Education is the second best thing to put into a routine because you're learning your craft. You're learning and delving into the rites, the rituals, and everything, the history, the folklore, everything, tracing back, your current, your path to the truth and keeping that knowledge pure. You're getting away from all that corruption and that dogma. Okay. I look back over the last 6 years and I look at I look at the knowledge that I've acquired within four essays of 4,000 words, okay, on Egyptian necromancy, Greek necromancy, going up through the Middle East, all the way over into Russia and right back down into the African Caribbean traditions. And it's amazing. It's mind blowing. And I want to know more. I want to go further. So, knowing that I'm working on my fifth essay, how do I get that further? Well, you got to be self motivated, therefore, self dedicated, self committed to this path, this routine. So, knowledge and acquiring that knowledge is a must. So, you're working your mind, you're working your body, apply it into the ritual room, right? So, that's the third aspect of this routine: mind, body, soul, or spirit, depending on what you want to call it. Andrew Womack called it mind, body, spirit. Okay. And that's a Baptist, by the way. That's a Baptist writing this book called Mind, Body, and Spirit. And I always wondered, why did he name it that? Since I got into the ministry, I've always wondered that. That was 12 years ago. That was like 12, 13 years ago. And now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. Why did he call it that? Because that routine requires you to work your mind, your spirit. How do you perform things like projection, astral projection, or projection in itself, astral soul travel. Okay. How do you perform rites of shadowmancy if you can't work the muscles, the third eye, you know, like a regular muscle? Because let's face it, that is another form of working out. Okay. So you got to work all three of these applications to advance in your craft. So if we look at the European witches and warlocks, who were they? They were the keepers of the wisdom, of the sacred knowledge. The druids were wise men and women. The hexa, the strega, the necromancer, the shaman, the medicine men of Eastern and Western cultures. Even if you get into the African Caribbean traditions, such as the Palero, the Bokor, the Miramberos, the Caplata or the Hangan, Mambo, Papa or Mama, depending if you're going from Haitian or Dominican Republic voodoo. You know, even if you get into the Brua or Bruo of Brujeria, Brujeria practices, you know. And yes, I am working on my Spanish. So I'm actually getting into various different other languages right now, such as Japanese, Chinese, even, and Indonesian. I've been learning Indonesian magic because of the Dukan shamanism of Santet practices. I got interested in Santet about a year ago and started delving into that, and it led me into Indonesia. So now I have to learn Indonesia language and everything, and that's led me into Japanese and Chinese. And trust me, Japanese is very, very hard to learn. That is a language that is worse than German. That's all I gotta say. It is worse than trying to learn German, but it will be worth it in the end. So, again, you gotta delve into the knowledge. You gotta work the mind. You gotta work the body and the spirit, and from there, how do you apply it? Well, in the workforce, I've been experimenting over the last few months. The last 3 months, I started utilizing the 48 laws of power. Okay. Not just the art of war. I started studying the art of war again. I started applying, I've read these books and I've got a couple more of his books on the way. His book, Mastery and The Law of Human Nature. I've got those two books coming as well. I just ordered them. And one of the very first thing in the 48 laws of power is it says, do not outshine the master. Okay, do not outshine the masters. Now, who's the master? That would be your boss, right? Your general manager, your manager. So how do you not outshine them? Let them think that they're making the right choices. You do the work, but just enough to get noticed, but not enough to outshine them. You don't want to embarrass them because then they can turn around and make your life a living hell. That's if they want to be a dick. Okay. Um, but when you take these laws and you start applying them, the art of seduction is something that is natural for a woman because women have that natural ability to seduce men. Men, on the other hand, have to work twice as hard to pull off that warlock side. You know, Robert Johnson in the Warlocks book, puts forth the ideal of putting on the persona, getting the outfit, getting the look, getting the type of language and the thought form that of who you want to be and how you want to represent your spirituality. Okay, which is all good and everything because as a a psychology student, and I have been in college now for about 6 months. Psychology is something that is very, very good. I started getting it. I got accepted to Miriam University last fall, and it's something that I've been learning a lot about and seeing where the psychological views are, not just in the world, but if you think about your practices and how you represent yourself in public. Being mysterious is all good, but if you get something like, say, let's look at how E.A. Coetting handled the whole showdown with BBC News. That one article, it took one article to get him thrown off social media. Now, according to the news outlet, that reporter went to a house. How do you even know that was his house? That looked like a little pink house that would have been to a single woman. I'm just saying. But again, if you look at how he handled that, he didn't reply once to BBC News. He stayed in the shadows like he was a fucking ghost. Okay? So if you take in my opinion, that was a wrong move. Okay? sometimes things are not going to go away, so you have to actually deal with them once and for all. So then you want to think, okay, 50th laws of power. Okay, the 50th law. You got a guy who became an apprentice of a notorious mobster. Today, this guy is a millionaire. Okay, he runs his own conglomerate. He's friends with this author. So, how you watch some of these old legal cases dealing with mobsters, you look at how they put on the charm, they put on the humor, the persona of being something that they're not. But if you're innocent and you're truly innocent and you put forth the actual facts, the truth comes out. Okay. But you have to fight for that truth. So by not confronting it and coming out and saying, hey, you know, this is a lie. I have thousands, like say 1.4 million people that follow my chat group. I don't know everybody there. I don't associate with anybody there. Therefore, I have no affiliation whatsoever with this chump that came on for 2, 3 weeks and then thought he was a master and decided to do a pact or whatever and do what he did. No, he said nothing. He stayed in the background. So, in my opinion, that was the wrong move because that actually was followed up by the implosion of the original cast members of Bulk. Okay. That the originals went, ah, you know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of issues like a festering wound. You know what I'm saying? A festering wound. And with any festering wound, if you do not deal with the issues, the underlying issue, then it's not going to heal. It's going to continue to fester. And then you're going to have an implosion. Okay. The separation of Orly Stewart and JD Temple and you know, J.S. Garrett, J.S. Garrett and his wife separating, and then what's his name, Curtis Joseph leaving, and all that stuff, and just boom, just they went their own way. That's what happens when you don't deal with issues. Okay. Now, some would say, well, that was a curse. Really? It could have been a learning experience. It could have been something that allows you to grow and to mature. Okay. But it also led Eric Koetting to Odyssey. He's still putting out books, he's still putting out content, but he's brought in these young kids, such as Connor Kendall and that other guy. Can't think of his name at the moment. But you look at the content and what's being put forth now. Okay. Same old, just new characters. Okay. But in the workforce, how do you apply your sorcery? Look at it like this: balancing the equation. I had a coworker just the other day. I opened, I closed, and then I opened again the following morning. And so that was a good 24, 40, to almost a full day's worth of work right there. That was hell. I was exhausted. And this guy, he's been curious about my tattoos. Now, I could have told him that this was a journey from this, and this. I could have gone into what necromancy is and the practices and what we do as necromancers, or black magicians, or magi, blood sorcerers and sorceresses, the blood mage, whatever. But I didn't. Why? Because he didn't need to know. I simply guided him. I said, "Why don't you Google it? You want to know what a ritual is? You want to know what a ceremony is? Google it. Well, what does your tattoos mean? It's my journey to the path I walk. Plain and simple. Leave it at that." My boss has been leaning more and more on me, talking to me, bringing things to me because I get shit done. Okay? He knows that I get shit done. He's not going to the shift leads. He's not going to anybody else because, as the overseer of the bakers, who literally is one step underneath a team lead or a shift lead, if you will, you know, because I'm the opener, I'm the baker, I'm the one that gets shit done in the mornings. Guess what? That allows him to know, hey, I can depend on this guy. Just like in a relationship, you're responsible for your family. You're the provider, the protector. If you're a man, it's a thankless job. So, knowing this, you have to be the counselor. You have to be the the lover, if you will. Um, you have to be the father, the parent. You have to be the enforcer. You have so many hats that you got to carry as the man of the family. So again, you have things that you can say, things that you can do, and things that you really have to watch your tongue on. You know, you can make the joke about, if you can make some jokes every so often, which is all right, but you really want to keep the balance. Okay, just because she and I are not together doesn't mean I won't be there for my son, and he knows that. So he also knows that he has a choice where he can go between my house, his grandparents' house, and his mother's house. And he's learning to be that independent because you're teaching him how to be that independent, to take that self motivation and say, hey, I can do this. You're being that role model. Okay. You're being that responsible parent. So when I go to work, I look at these employees not as friends, not as family, but as potential enemies. I look at them as, okay, I'm here. Nobody else is taking charge. I will guide them. Okay. Why don't you take out the trash? Why don't you do the dishes? Why don't you go mop the floor? Whatever. Okay. Kind of guide them and make sure that everything is accordingly and ready for opening. Okay. Same thing in a family, you got to make sure that your child is up in the morning, dressed, fed, ready for school. Okay, to be there to when your other half, if you will, is either dropping the ball, or even if they work long hours, like say if you're in the medical field, you're going to be working anywhere between 8 to 16-hour shifts. Okay, that's a given. Trust me, I worked in that field for about a year, and before I went back to Duncan, I was a dietary aide, and that was to see what you were actually responsible for there, not just learning from a chef. You know, it's it's one of those things where you have to put up with political aspects. You have to deal with the fact that upper management doesn't want to do their jobs. They want to protect their own asses. You got to deal with other divisions such as the RAs, the resident assistants, looking down on the kitchen staff. You got to look at those that are supposedly higher ups, like the chef or the first in command of the kitchen, saying that, well, we're supposed to be the shield, but yet you're not being the shield. So guess what? That leaves you being the third in command of the kitchen, going, hey, if you're not going to do your job, then I'm going to. Okay, because I've got to look out for those underneath me. Okay, so eventually you're going to learn what it's like to be an alpha. Okay, you're going to learn what it means to be a stigma. Okay, if you will. But when you break it down into, let me show you here. If you break it down, every aspect, into two journals, okay, just two journals, okay, have it first or second, how should I say this, second levels or degrees, if you will, from psychological to physical to spiritual, mental. What do you know about the mind? What do you know about the body? How do you, what do you know about your world, from your family life to your work, you know, applications? What do you know about the legal system? What do you know about applying black magic or sorcery in general to achieving your goal? And how do you keep all of this balanced? My apprentice, one of my apprentices, every time we talk, he always says, and just about almost every time, it's like clockwork. He's like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. And just keep on going. You're always learning. You're a true practitioner. Well, number one, it comes down to having good teachers. Okay. A good teacher is not going to do the work for you, but they're not going to hold anything back from you that's going to prevent you from learning and growing. They're not going to sit there and go, okay, you're not prepared for this, but just because you're not prepared for it doesn't mean that you can't research it. Let's see where you take it. Okay. Anybody who's ever been in the service knows that those above you will teach you, and you teach those beneath you. So it's the same product. You're applying what you know to your life. So when you break it down, what falls under magic? What does it mean to you? How do you apply it? How what kind of rites can you perform to open up doors in your force? In the workforce. How do you break it? What is love to you? How can you break that down into the categories that surround everything that you enjoy? Be it being a parent, being a family man or woman, you know, um, how do you deal with your finances and balance it out so that you always have money? What are your weaknesses compared to your strengths? Okay, these are all categories that you can break down into these subcategories. So if you take a journal and you separate them into, say, three sections, okay, spiritual, physical, mental. So you have mind, body, spirit right there in one book. And the other book you have work, rituals and ceremonies, and family. Okay? Break it down like that. From there, write down everything that matters to you and what you perceive to be a benefit. Every time you write something in there and you open that up, you're going to get a better idea of what and who you are as a practitioner. The sleight of hand tricks, if you will. I have shown my general manager, certain things like certain minor alchemy, if you will, where you have tape, you know, scotch tape, and you put your hand over it, you can make a cold spot, you know, a little energy manipulation type thing. So he's impressed by that, right? But at the same time, you're staying professional and you're showing him, okay, I know my job. I'm willing to improve. I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to do what it takes because this is the career I chose. Okay. But you're also listening to what they need. You're adapting. So, how do you adapt your practice? I go in there, I have my miniature, my mojo bag. I have my gris in my pocket, so that has my altar coin. I have certain gems and stones in it. Okay. So I'm constantly connected to my main altar. So I can sit there while I'm baking, while I'm setting up the store, and it's already 3 a.m., 3 ante. So guess what? Between 3 and 5 ante, I'm there by myself. So I can sit there and I can pray to those that I worship and that I work with and thank them for what they do. I can say, hey, come forth and work with me here. Let's see what we can do to help close that gap between for for your agenda and mine, you know? But at the same time, I'm dealing with the physical stuff at the same time. So therefore, my bosses are happy, not just the demons that I work with. Okay. Now let's do spells. How do you apply spells through rituals and ceremonies and make it into the applications? Well, guess what? You have a particular job. You have a particular goal in mind. Open up that door. Let these spirits come through, these egregores. Let them, your legionnaires come forth and say, hey, this is where I want to be. I don't give a damn what the cost is. Okay, number one, by saying that alone, you don't care what you lose as long as you achieve that goal. Okay, if I have to sacrifice my relationship with my son's mother to make my goals come true, I'm willing to do that. Okay, because it's for the betterment of my son. Okay, because I know he will be taken care of at the end. But I'm furthering my career at the same time. But when I look at this, I'm also opening up that gateway, that doorway, so that they can go in and go, okay, I'm going to remove this person, this person, this person, and this person to open up that doorway. Next thing you know, hey, you know, um, I'd rather have you as my AGM. Hey, I'm game. Wait, really? Wow. Boom. Right there. You just threw a curveball into what would have been classified as a joke. And it puts into their mind, hey, that's a little sleight of hand trick is like, this guy wants to move up in the company. He's a hard worker. He's putting the effort in. He's doing the work. He's responsible. He's reliable. Okay. Just like you do with the spirits that you work with within your craft, right? So you're in alignment, you're in accordance with both applications, the physical and the spiritual. You're going forth, you're doing it. And then all of a sudden, hey, I got three positions for you, you know? You could be the overseer of the bakers, or you could be a teacher, which is a shift lead type position, or you can do this application. Next thing you know, you're going between stores. Being the baker between stores, you're the overseer of the baker. So you're moving up, and all of a sudden, your general manager's calling you, going, "Hey, guess what? I just want to check in and say, hey, what's going on? How did the morning go? How did this go? Did you have any problems with this? Yada yada yada." Well, have you ever had anybody do that before? Have you ever had a boss do that before? No. Well, guess what? This is applications because you're meditating, you're reflecting, you're putting the work in that ritual room, in that temple. That's a prerequisite. Right there. You're following the proper protocols, if you will, putting it right in there first. I had a minister once. You have an issue? Put it on the altar. Leave it on the altar. It always pissed me off. It always pissed me off because that's what he would tell me every fucking time, you know, years ago is leave it on the altar. Why the fuck would he say that? Why would he say that? Why would he put it on the altar? Bugged the living hell out of me for years until I realized what he meant by that. The prerequisite. You put it in the altar. You go to your God. You go to your patron or patroness. Say, hey, I understand that this nothing comes for free. There's always a cost. Always. 9 times out of 10, it's in blood. It's always in blood. The cost is always blood related, be it an offering or a sacrifice, something that you got to give up to achieve that victory, and it's like the tower card in cartomancy, the major arcana, you know, for anything to be created, you must destroy it first. You must destroy what's there first. So by doing this, you're following philosophy. You're following the witch's creed, the witch's oath. You're doing the work by the study of your craft. Doesn't matter if it's your work or it's your rituals. What spirits can you go to that will benefit you in this area? Let's look at the nine kings of the Goetia. Okay. Three are known for persuasion. Three are known for the sciences. And three are known for the arts. So how can you choose which ones? You want to persuade men's minds, so let's work with Paimon, okay? You want to, your desire is to go up further in rank, right? So you'd work with Asmodeus, okay? You want financial profit, so you'd work with Viney, you know? I would also recommend Boon, to you for protection in that case. So by knowing this, then let's go up further. Let's work with Mammon. Let's work with Beelzebub and Astaroth. How about Lucifer, the Enlightener? But if you're working with necromancy, let's work with Seer. Let's work with Bifron or Murmur. Okay, different aspects of necromantic rites and rituals. Knowledge thereof. So you want to choose a spirit that you have a good, strong relationship with that would benefit you in that case. So when you go into the ritual room, you wash your hands, you get into your ritual, attire. You go in, you light the candles, the incense, you put yourself into a meditative state. You let everything of the world go. You know, you you sit in there and you reflect upon why you're there. Get that energy going, getting that mind state going, and you begin chanting. You begin using mantra to build that current. You you start calling forth that entity. You swish out your mouth with the alcohol, and you get the bell to say, "Hey, I'm here. Come join me. Come, I invite you in. You know, I invoke, summon, and conjure thee. Come on in. Come on in." Sin, 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 come on in, whatever, come on in. I invite you into my world, into my temple, and say, hey, this is what my goal is. How can I do this? If you do this for me, what can I do for you to help further your cause in this world? What can I do to represent? How can we work together to achieve each other's goals? Apply what you know to your rights, but leave it there. Don't obsess over it. Never obsess over it. You can obsess to a point, but only in that ritual room during that one rite, and just say, hey, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. Go to work the next day, start applying it. Make sure that you don't outshine the master, which is your general manager, which is your shift leads, those who have a higher rank than you. Start applying, doing 100, or as my brother John Saunders would say, 666%. You know, apply it to your life. And since I started applying the creeds and everything along with these philosophies to the physical, not just the spiritual, in just 4.5 months, just 4.5 months, just about 4.5 months now. Damn, I still can't believe it's the fourth month and the 12th day. Wow. Fuck. Time flies when you're having fun. But yeah, when you start applying it to your life, you're putting the physical applications in, the spiritual applications in. You're visually seeing it happening before you apply it. You leave it in there. You go out there and you do it. Next thing you know, these doors are opening. These freaking doors are opening, and you're sitting there down the road going, God damn, I remember that ride I did just a few months ago. Now the AGM is gone. All these people that were above me, gone. Your GM had a heart attack. You get to be a closer and get that experience. But wait, I'm going to take you to a different job so that you can learn these skills. That job's going to end. Now you're in the job that will benefit you. Remember, let the spirits have their way. They see things 100 times more than what you would see. Okay? But believe in them and what you do. Okay? Hey, Harley. You get right up here. All right. Hey, you girl. That's my girl. You good girl. You get some exercise in. Yeah. So, anyways, this is Harley. She's the second eldest of the four that I have. So, yeah, and it's interesting to see how many people come to you, how many people look up to you and thank you for what you do. You see, just make sure to leave ego and pride out of the way because, as they say, pride cometh before the fall, right? It's the biggest destroyer out there. So, therefore, deal with that pride, deal with that ego, and just apply the practices. Think of it as an experiment. Think of it as an experiment and literally just break it down. Alchemy. Take an take a property such as silver or iron, you know, your job. Break it down into its most basic components and learn. Okay? You have closers, you have upper management, you have team leads, you have coworkers. Now, how do you make all of this stuff work in your benefit? How do you make money work in your benefit? What can you do to find financial success? Okay, I have I've been talking with this woman from Boston, She runs her own restaurant, and not sure where that's going yet, but she's already introduced me to something called Brave Browser, and this deals with it's an alternative to the banking system, so you don't have to give portions of your money to the bank or to whatever, so you actually keep the money and you get to disperse it the way you see fit. So, and then on top of that, you have, um, your one of your apprentices would recommend a certain app that would help you with stocks and bonds so that for the long-term savings. And you know teachers or guides can bring forth, say, let's say, for an example, Rich Dad Poor Dad, how do the rich get richer, and which you can find on Scribd. And you're learning, okay, wow, so this is how you can apply, but just by taking notes, this is how you can make money work for you and in your favor. Okay, you could sit there and save, take $20 out of your weekly paycheck and put it aside, for the rest of your days. You can have life insurance, whatever. You can save up for retirement, through SSI or SSDI or whatever, so, stuff like that, you know, through your W-2s and stuff like that. But how do you make money work for you? You know what I'm saying? So right there, you have the work, you have the financial, you you can you have your grimoires and your journals that will help you with your spiritual and magical practices. So I mean, you're going across the board and you're breaking it down into sections. How do you what does it mean to you? How do you get it to work for you? So in essence, it is alchemy. It is your basic alchemical practice of breaking shit down into its most basic components, and then applying it by building upon that firm foundation. To quote the 21 satanic points, build not upon sand, but upon rock. Build not for today or yesterday, but for all time. Okay. In Rich Dad Poor Dad, it was described as most people, when they build a foundation, they do it from a house. Somebody who's building a business is not going to build a base, a foundation for a house. No, they're going to build a foundation for a skyscraper. And then you got to bring in the assets. How do you work the assets? Then you got the tax brackets and everything. So in the essence, it's a wonder why you have money at all, right? It's amazing to see how you can afford your magical practices, your physical practices, and still have a roof over your head. Not just having that family life. You know what I'm saying? And then you got to worry about friends and family turning on you. You got to, what enemy can you bring in and apply, like cat hair on my face here. So my nose is bugging me. Um, you know, what enemies can you use to benefit you? How can you make your enemies work for you? Because number one, they, like I said, they have something to prove, whereas your friends and family don't. So how can you do this? How can you build that franchise? How can you continue on what you're doing and improve what you're doing to make your world better? Okay. Spirits, demons are guides. They are teachers. They are um, protectors. Okay. Angels are nothing more than messengers and warriors. So even knowing that, what can you use to benefit you and what you're going for? You know what I'm saying? So my advice to you is get into a philosophy, get into philosophy. Get into some kind of disciplined practice. Get into your practices on all levels and see what you can do to improve and apply. I recommend journals because trust me, that is the best thing that you can do. I'm glad I actually was this was actually put in front of me because it's given me the opportunity to see what I was overlooking. It's given me the opportunity to look at, okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. So how do I take these weaknesses and turn them into strengths while keeping what I already have as strengths? Well, everything is a learning you know, everything is a learning curve. Everything. You never stop learning. Something may come across it, like say your relationship breaking up or you lose your job. Look at it as, okay, why did this get terminated? Why did it end? It's not the end of the world. It's just a learning experience, you know? How do you how do you take something like this and go, all right, they did not need me anymore. What do I do now? Where do I go from here? But don't let that drama or that turmoil of what's going on impede your thought and your goals. It's more of the fact of where do you want to be and how do you do it. I looked at my boss, my current boss, and I told him point blank, I'm a contractor. You hired me for my service, for my services. I am fulfilling what you're paying me for. Now look at your clientele as a practitioner, as a mage or a sage, necromancer, shaman, warlock, witch, brewer. Are you not being hired to perform a service? Therefore, you are a contractor. You work for the spirits that you have aligned yourself with. You are a contractor. You're fulfilling a job, a title, a duty. So again, seeing that application coming across the board, even into your relationship status with your ex, now ex, or current significant other, you're a contractor. You donated a certain thing that ended up in a family life, right? Be it an egg or sperm, whatever, and now you have a son or a daughter, children. You are a mate, so you are a contractor and you're doing that job that you were hired to do. Okay. And let's face it, being a man is a thankless job. It is. You basically take the brunt of everybody's shit. And but when it comes down to it at the end of the day, how do you manage all that? How do you manage all of that? And how do you live in a neighborhood that has drunks outside the window? It's like 11:43 a.m. and somebody's already drunk and having a good time. It's like, "You bastard, you couldn't have brought one for me? Seriously?" Oh, just kidding. I wouldn't change my life for anything. I love it. So, but yeah, just these are just some tips that I would recommend for you to get into. And as I tell my clients and my apprentices, it's not about me and you pleasing me by doing what I'm telling you to do. No, your practice is your practice. You have to find what works for you. The only two things that I would recommend is whatever you preach, always back it up with numerous sources and always make yourself available to the public because you are responsible for the things that you say and do. That's it. Anything else is water under the bridge. It's between you and you. and those spirits that you work with. Lay it on the altar. Fulfill your role. Do what you do best. All right? Never stop learning. All right? Have a good one. I'm out.